This is the Hacking Real Estate Podcast, episode 12.
I would be a little bit more skeptical with the whole one price type of deal. Like I need to see a breakdown of where this is going, what's being paid, this, that, and the other, because I'm telling you, once you get started and they get the money, you're just kind of at their mercy. And I'm not going down that road anymore.
Welcome to the Hacking Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into the stories of seasoned, hands on, and tech savvy real estate investors. We'll learn the strategies and tools they use to maximize returns and minimize hassle, all while navigating the rapidly changing real estate market. I'm your co host, Brandon Hall, and managing partner of Hall CPA, and I'm sitting alongside my co host, Vikas Gupta, CEO of Azebo. With our combined 15 years of experience in real estate investing and entrepreneurship, we're here to help you up your real estate game. Let's get hacking.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hacking Real Estate Podcast. Today's guest is Chastin Miles. Chastin is a distinguished entrepreneur, best-selling author, and influential real estate expert who empowers entrepreneurs nationwide. From a broke solo agent to leading a fast-growing real estate team, his innovative approach has made a significant industry impact. He holds high-profile roles, including CEO of CJM International LLC and nationwide influencer leader at eXp Realty, and has been featured in publications like Forbes, The New York Times, and more. Chastin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
In your own words, can you tell us about your real estate journey?
Sure. My real estate journey started back in 2015, 2014. So I've been in the game a little over 10 years now, and I started out as a broke solo real estate agent. I decided to pack up my bags and move from Georgia to Texas to start on this real estate career. And it was my plan to only work as a real estate agent for a year. Then I was going to move to LA. I had other goals and dreams. So got into the business, and like most people who get into real estate, I was trying to do any and everything that I could to make some money. But this career in this industry was not what I thought it was going to be. And so it got to the point where I was literally sitting in my apartment about to head out to go to a property, and my electricity got disconnected. And I still had to go out there and do the job. And I'm in this open house at this property, and nobody's coming in. I'm not getting any type of traction or business. And I remember just locking that front door an hour early, and I had a full-on breakdown because here I was, had packed all my stuff and moved across the country, and I was trying to build this business and build this career, and nothing was happening to me, now to the point where my electricity is off. And I knew at that moment that I could either go out and get a job or try to really figure this thing out, figure out what's the problem, what I can do differently. And so I realized that the big problem I had was nobody knew me. I was fresh to the area. I didn't barely know the area myself. And that's what started me on a journey through social media. So I just started documenting my experiences and what I was going through. And it wasn't pretty by any means, but I was just being very honest about what I was experiencing. And over time, the business picked up, started growing a team, and as I was making money, started to get exposed to other parts of real estate as I was working with investors, helping them find properties. Then that kind of went into me working kind of for the investors where, yeah, I was finding them the property, but then I was picking out finishes and this and that and the other, and then marketing and selling the property. A few times, a couple years doing that, I was like, I want to do this myself. I want to go down this road myself. And so I just had to figure out the money side of things. And then I was off to the races on the investment side. And so here I am. I'm still in the industry. I'm an investor, a landlord, a speaker, an author. I mean, I've come a long way since I started, but I did start out total newbie, not knowing anything.
And what does your portfolio look like today?
Sure, my portfolio, I currently have 5 rental properties of my own, and then my primary residence, and then I've done a handful of flips.
And on the handful of flips, like, has that been something that you are trying to scale? Are you trying to scale that business out, or is it just something where you were testing the waters? And if you decided not to scale it out, my question is, why not?
Yeah, so the flipping for me started out as testing the waters, like, oh, I want to try something new. And then I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants. And after making some mistakes, that's what kind of transitioned couple of my flips to properties that I still hold today. But it was a huge time commitment for me, and it was a lot of people and paperwork and just needing to be here, needing to be there, and I'm a very busy guy, and I realized, like, okay, I can't necessarily do it this way and do it the right way. So I ended up hiring a general manager for my whole investment side of things. Then I was thinking that was going to be the solution, but even that, I felt like I was paying so much money. I was still having to be just as involved. The timelines were now way longer than they should have been, and I was just kind of over it at that point. I still do it now. I mean, if an amazing deal comes across my desk, then, I may hop on it. But kind of right now, I'm more so focused on just the acquisition side of things. We're transitioning over to multifamily and some commercial stuff. And so, yeah, I'm just letting the flip and chill right now.
Okay, now why are you switching to the multifamily commercial stuff? What's prompting that?
Just the opportunity. Just the opportunity, to be honest with you. I'm that type of person where I want to try everything and try anything at least once. That's how I've done most things in my career, and this was the next step for me. Even on the real estate agency side, I pretty quickly transitioned more so into a CEO type of role, where I was bringing on other agents and kind of building a brokerage of my own. And I realized I truly love the management side of the business and not so much the emotional side of things. And even with the flips, it was kind of more emotional than I wanted it to be. And so I was like, I want to deal with mostly numbers, what makes sense, the investment side of things. And so that's what's carrying me there.
I want to go back to something you said when you were telling us about your journey into flips and you hired a general manager and you found that you were paying a lot of money, the timelines were getting longer, and you were still as involved as you were before. One common theme about in this podcast with all our guests has been sort of the importance of the team and getting the right team around you. I think we often don't hear about, or so far we haven't heard a lot about times you don't get leverage from having someone. So can you tell us a little bit more about like what you thought you would get from having a general manager, what you actually got, and sort of where that disconnect came from?
Sure. So that actually started with a recommendation from one of my other colleagues. He was telling me, hey, have this great guy. He does awesome work, and he pretty much charged you wholesale for everything, sold me the dream. And so we started with a full on invoice of everything that was going to be done, along with just a flat bottom dollar pricing. I was only responsible for paying this dollar amount, and the dollar amount was like $80,000, so it wasn't even like super low. And so he was going to, well, him and his team, they were going to be doing everything from start to finish. I was going to have to be completely hands off, everything like that. Come to find out along the journey, there wasn't really much a team on his side, and it was mostly him doing all of the work. In addition to that, I believe there was some poor money management and time management going on, because I didn't find out until we were probably a few weeks in that he was still finishing up another job. I mean, we discussed that, like, hey, this is your only job right now and all of this kind of stuff. So not only did it get revealed that he was finishing up another job, but he was also kind of commingling funds, because I guess maybe he under budgeted on that job, and so was using some of the money that I paid him up front to finish that job. Then when it came to mine, not only was he taking such a long time because it was just him and he would have a buddy sometimes, I guess, do stuff, but also when it came down to what was actually needed for my property, he couldn't afford it. So I found myself giving him more money, right, on top of more money. Then, once the project was actually done, I found so many corners that were cut. And I'm talking like just putting primer on the walls, thinking that nobody would notice, because it was white, and trying to bring in supplies, I guess, that were ordered for another property and they didn't want them, and this and that. And I was like, I don't want them either. And so lots of empty promises. Then on another property, I went the route of, hey, okay, I know what to look for. Someone with a team, that actually has people, and found someone. They did great work. However, they weren't any shorter timeline wise. And then secondly, I was still having to be just involved in picking this out, picking that out, and always coming there and checking on things, and then dealing with a bunch of stuff with the city. They were a considerable improvement.
If you own rental
from
units but
the
don't want to
previous
pay
one.
for expensive
However,
software, check
all
out
of that
Azebo,
came at a
the
price,
smarter way to manage
and
your rental properties.
it also came
With
as,
Azebo, you
I
can
had to
automate
be
rent
more
collection,
involved and
find
all
quality
that kind of stuff.
renters,
So I was just
simplify
like,
accounting
I'm
and
just
tax
done
prep.
with all of that right
Get a
now.
bank
Like,
account designed for real
I
estate
don't want to
investors
deal with
and
that,
save on
especially
rental property
during
insurance.
this
All of
busy
these
period
services
that
are
I'm
free
in.
through
I
Azebo.
still
Join
like to
thousands of
acquire,
real estate
at
investors
least
who
one or
trust
two
Azebo to manage
every
their
year
rental
to
business
just
in one
flip, just,
convenient
for
platform.
like Christmas
Sign up
and stuff.
today at
But I'm not being as
azebo.com/HRE.
aggressive on the
That's
flipping side as most.
azibo.com/HRE.
So if you were to go back and do it again, would you just avoid at all hiring someone? Or do you think that, now having gone down the path with two folks, there's a different set of questions you would ask. There's a different level of diligence that you would do.
Sure. There's definitely a different level of diligence that I would do, because I do know what questions to ask, and I know what to look for, and I know what can prevent me from having nasty conversations down the line. Another thing that I would do differently is I would actually use one of my team members to manage whoever needs to be managed, and kind of train them from the get-go of what should happen, just to have that in between person. Those are two big things that I know I would do differently. I would be a little bit more skeptical with the whole one price type of deal. Like, I need to see a breakdown of where this is going, what's being paid, this, that, and the other, because I'm telling you, once you get started and they get the money, you're just kind of at their mercy. And I'm not going down that road anymore.
I've never done a flip, but we've done these like prolonged, I guess you could call them live-in flips. And my experience dealing with contractors has been somewhat similar. And even when you try to get all that cost breakdown at the beginning, they're very hesitant to give it to you, right? And it's like, dude, I want you to make money. Don't get me wrong, but like, I just want to know where the money's going because I just feel like I need to know for my decision making purposes on who I'm going to work with. But yeah, I've had a very similar experience.
Yeah, it's real. Yeah.
You said you had 5 rentals.
Mhm.
Are these all single family rentals?
Yes.
When did you purchase them, and why did you choose single family?
I was just getting started with this, and my first 2 rentals were actually flips that I was having a hard time selling. So I started back in 2019, 2020-ish, and I was having a hard time selling these flips for what I had eventually put into them. And so I was just like, I just want to hold on to these. And then once I did those 2 deals, more people started dropping deals on my desk, and I was like, okay, these are great deals. Let me just get them. I can afford them, and I knew that they would quickly get rented out, and I mean for a premium. Like on one of mine, the mortgage is like $1,200, but I'm able to get $2,000 a month in rent on that. No Airbnb, no none of that. And so these margins and spreads were so good that I didn't want to pass up anything. But luckily on those additional ones, I didn't go balls to the wall as far as like the makeover and upgrades and rehab of them, because I was like, these are going to strictly just be rental properties. It's been working out where, I mean, it's helped that I'm a real estate agent too, and a very well connected one too, because I haven't had to do a lot of the things that other investors or wholesalers, the bandit signs or door knocking. People just send me stuff, right? And if it's a good deal, heck, we can all get paid off of it. I'm not even worried about like an assignment fee type of deal. Like we can all get paid. I would just quickly get them and put a little bit into them and then rent them out. We're in a phenomenal rental market here in Dallas.
You also mentioned that you were switching to multifamily, that commercial space. Is part of that reason because you're seeing these rent to price ratios kind of contract, that like it's not as good as it used to be? Or talk to us a little bit about that.
I would say that reasoning is 100% selfish to me. I want to keep going bigger and bigger and bigger, so I've done the single family. Now I want to do the multifamily, then the commercial, and we'll see where it ends up and what I want to go just like full on with. But I at least want to try each of them, even building. Like I want to try each of them to see which one I really really truly like. But these single families are so easy for me now that I kind of got the little groove of them. And so I'm ready to challenge myself on a new project and experience different things.
So going back to the single families, what have you liked most about owning single family rentals, and what have you liked least?
I would say I liked most just knowing that I have these assets with equity, and it's allowed me to leverage the equity in order to make other investments. I liked the fact that all of my properties are in appreciating areas, so it's really good for me. It's definitely set me up for the future. Now, what I am not the biggest fan of is being a landlord. Luckily, I've had some pretty great tenants. I mean, I haven't had to deal with anything crazy or evict anybody. I have my little process for everything, but I'm not very, like, we don't talk a lot or anything like that, but I tend to be able to select really good tenants. So I like that. They pay their rent on time. It's all good. It's very easy for me, I'd say that.
So it sounds like you're managing your properties yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit why you chose to do that instead of hiring a property manager?
Yeah, I mean, it just hasn't gotten too much of a headache for me, I guess, to the point where I feel like I need that. For me personally, I've been in the real estate industry, for over 10 years, so I know all the laws with it. I have access to all the systems, the contracts, so I have enough knowledge, and I can do it like the back of my hand because I've done it for so many other clients of mine. I mean, renting their properties out and things like that. So there wasn't a knowledge gap to the point where I felt like I needed to get someone who was super knowledgeable about this. So for me, I mean, I was able to save that 10, 15%, and it hasn't been too much of a headache for me yet.
Now, you also said something when you were talking about being a landlord that you don't like being a landlord. Can you expand on that?
I just feel this like weight on my, like, oh, somebody's living in one of your houses, and I don't know. It's like every time, for instance, on one of the properties, like the tenant never gets to the alarm in time to like disable the alarm, and I'm, a secondary contact on it, and I know nothing's going on, but it's like every time that alert goes off on my phone, it's kind of like and then just like little things like, oh, it's not super cold. Like for instance, one of them, a more recent move in was like got a washer and dryer installed in there, delivered, and they told her that the fuse or that we didn't have electrical wiring for the dryer to the breaker box. And I was like, you're not the first tenant in here. Like, yes, we do. I promise we do. And so I had to have my assistant go over there. He went over there and then he was like, everything was fine. They just needed to flip the breaker on for it. And I was just like, and it's little stuff like that to where if I didn't have him, that would have annoyed the crap out of me. That would have just like probably sent me over if I got in my car and went over there. And then I'm always worried about, like the grass getting too high or things like that, and the city's calling me, just because I just don't want any issues. And so, those are all things I don't like. I mean, I don't like sitting there sending out the like rent notices and stuff like that. It's just those little types of deals, but it's not horrifying, I guess.
Well, with that last one, we got to get you on his Evo. Just automate all that rent collection for free.
I just set up an account here last month because I had a move in, and I was like, I want to try this and see how it is. And so I put one property on there, so I'm just experimenting.
We'll get you back in 6 months. And you can be like, I love being a landlord.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Love to hear that.
Thanks for explaining all that. With the move to like multifamily commercial, what type of buildings are you targeting? And are you going to be taking these buildings down by yourself, or are you going to be working with partners?
Yes, sure. So with the move to commercial and multifamily, I'm going to start out working with partners. And it's crazy that you asked that because I was thinking that I was just gonna dabble into it, maybe start with a duplex, triplex type of deal. But unfortunately, all of my partners and connections are bringing me like huge deals. But I guess I'm a little bit more comfortable with that because not only are they bringing me these deals, but they're willing to, go in with me and they have more experience in them. So I won't say that my first or second deal is going to be small, but I will be very active in kind of knowing what goes on. And after that, I'll choose whether I want to go smaller personally or hey, keep doing the big game.
What markets are you targeting for your next investment?
Yeah, so we're right now focused on South Dallas. So south of the Metroplex. A lot of investments happen and building happened here in Dallas that went north. So Frisco, past Frisco, Salina. I mean, and it's far, far, far north now to where it takes an hour plus to get to downtown Dallas from a suburb. So now there is a migration starting to happen that way south. And historically, people were like, "Oh, we want to go build up north." But I mean, even now, all of my properties are in south of downtown, and so we got a lot of builders starting to come in, do tear downs, build up single family residences. So that's a huge cue for us working on some multifamily stuff down there.
Got it. So you're just kind of following the trend of what the builders are targeting next.
The market. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty smart. And do you have any sort of inside knowledge, given that you're an agent? Because I always think about like, I don't know, people like me, right? Like, how would I identify this move, other than just driving the streets on an ongoing basis? But I guess my question is like, do you have any inside access through being a broker? Maybe it's your connections, maybe it's the MLS. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to figure out like what's like the competitive advantage that you feel like you have that other investors might not have, or they might realize it too late that South Dallas is the place to target.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, all of the above. And it's not just access to the MLS, because I mean, most of the MLS data you can access from other websites too, but really the connections, the classes that we get as realtors. So we have a realtor association that pretty much manages all real estate agents. And every year we have these forecasts. Seminars or trainings, and they're done by economists, and I mean they're deep too, like what's opening, what's building, what are the plans. So having that type of information, and most times they're giving you projections for not just that year but 2 3 4 years into the future. And I'll say they haven't been wrong yet. I don't know where these guys are getting their stuff, but they haven't been wrong. But you have to be a member of our association to even take part in that. Another thing is the access to agents. And so lots of agents will get these deals that either they don't know how to sell or it's out of their market area. If they know that I work in that area or they think that I have clients over there, they'll send them to me. I mean, us agents, we send out email blasts to each other like all day. And if it's something good, then I can scoop it up for myself. Another thing, partnering with hard money lenders, they get properties all the time, from these wholesaler lists and all of that. So I would say connections are a huge part of it. It's not necessarily a platform or system with data that tells us, what's what. We do have another platform that I find pretty useful where we can kind of set predictability as to if someone would be wanting to sell soon or needs to get out of their property, kind of putting those parameters on it. How much equity are they living in the home? All that kind of stuff. But I would say it's the connections that really do it.
Just curious, what's the name of that platform that's predicting whether or not someone's ready to sell?
Remine. REMINE.
Got it. And switching gears for a second, or I guess going back to the conversation on investing in commercial, how, if at all, has the current interest rate environment affected sort of your investment decisions? I mean, I think it's interesting for me to hear that you're thinking about going bigger and bolder in this market environment, this interest rate environment relative to, 2 3 years ago.
One thing about it for me, I have a really good relationship with my bank and bankers, and they have a program that I'm taking advantage of where for commercial properties, as long as I'm 51% occupying it for myself, then I can get some super competitive terms and rates on it. Well, I've always had a commercial office space for myself and my whole operation. That lease is coming up to be due. I'm at the end of my 4-year lease on that. And instead of me going out or renewing that lease, I'm just going to owner occupy one of the commercial properties and rent out the rest of it. So that's my plan for how I'm getting into it. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, I'm in the Dallas market, like Dallas and Texas. We have a very, very moving economy here in spite of everything that's going on everywhere else. It hasn't slowed down yet. I don't see it hitting just like super hardcore lows or anything. And, we still have a need for office space and commercial. So
That's super interesting to hear. I mean, here in California, like all we're seeing in the news is vacancy rates are up. Vacancy rates are up. There's
because they're all moving here. Yeah.
And then you got people like me. Like I run a remote CPA firm, so I've got 42 U.S. employees just scattered throughout. Everybody's working out of their own home, so I'm like probably not the guy you want to talk to. Yeah, but no, I office is always really interesting. We have a couple clients that have done really, really well in office, and yeah, I think you're right. Like everybody is moving to like Texas. I believe actually a lot of people are moving to North Carolina. Like we're positive too on the move in, and so we're not seeing as bad of a office is not experiencing as much of a rut as it is out in California right now.
In business wise, I will say, because I don't want to make it seem like it's going to be all office, mostly desks and chairs and stuff, because our plan for it is, of course, me occupying one side of it. But when it comes to rentals, it's more of a co-working slash studio type of environment. We have a lot of creators who have migrated to Texas, and we're seeing a huge demand for different studio style spaces. And so some of the things like you all have in California when it gets to even like YouTube studios and this and that, we don't have many of those, and there's major opportunity for it. So, you know, that's what's on the board for now for what we're doing to the space, but still trying to find that perfect warehousey space that we want.
that's super interesting. I'm always fascinated by like how like new digital trends impact the built environment, and who would have thought, right? Like 12, 13 years ago that YouTube studios would be an asset class. Now here we are. Cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been a phenomenal interview, really insightful, and I think great insight into specifically the Dallas and Texas market as well. We have 3 closing questions that we like to wrap every episode with. So without further ado, question number 1. What is your favorite book? And it doesn't have to be real estate related.
My favorite book, I would say Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. Yeah, I love that book simply because it's been able to change my whole outlook on life and money and making me feel like I deserve to have and get everything that I'm getting.
And when did you read that book?
The first time I read it was probably back in 2018, 2019. I've read many other books, and this one wasn't even on my radar. It was one that someone recommended to me. Maybe I said something that the book contradicted at that time, and they were like, "You need to read this book." And so I read it, and yeah, it's a solid one for me.
Yeah, I was just curious about where in your journey that came in. So it sounds like a few years into your journey that book came in and sort of changed the way you thought about things. Our second question is for you as an investor, what is more important, appreciation or cash flow?
For me, appreciation. Appreciation for me, and I mean, because this isn't my full time, I guess, just every single day business or cash flowing business that I have. And so when I chose to go down the investment route, I wasn't ever really thinking that it was gonna like make me rich, by doing a flip here and there. And not to brag, I mean, but I've sold $1 million properties. You can make 30 grand by selling that property. And I was like, this is a lot more work to hopefully make that same 30, 40 grand on it. So I never really wanted it to be, or now I never think real cash flow with it. I'm always thinking about that appreciation.
Now that makes a lot of sense. Our final question for you is, what piece of advice do you have for our audience that we didn't get a chance to cover?
Oh, wow. I would say a big piece of advice, and this is something that really kind of helped me, like down this investment route. It was a lot of training and blogs and videos about, you know, contractors or finding the deal and this and that. But I feel like the biggest asset and what's helped me the most is those relationships with people. So those relationships with a banker, those relationships with a mortgage lender, those relationships with, heck, even hard money lenders. Like, you never know when you're going to need some money. Building business credit, having a relationship manager at American Express, like those relationships have, I feel like, saved me out of a few situations because I was able just to make a call, even though on paper I may have looked like I was deep in to something that I shouldn't have been. But those relationships really saved me because, they were able to come through when I needed them.
Right. Well, that's fantastic advice. I mean, I think that's been like a through line in this entire episode, has been the network, the connections, the relationships, and the importance of that in being able to really build your business. Right. It's, at the end of the day, it's all people. And so
Yeah.
knowing the right people, talking to the right people, having the right relationships, and then that's going to get you ahead.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, first wanted to thank you again. This is an excellent episode. We really appreciate you taking our time. And where can our audience find you?
Sure. Just on my website, chastinjmiles.com. And I have links to all of my social platforms and videos and everything on my website.
All right, well, thanks again. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.